This is the Anker Nano Power Bank. It has to be one of the first power banks I've seen that actually encourages you to use a cable as a carrying handle, which I think is a bold move by Anker and is perhaps a bit of a statement of intent in terms of the quality of this device. This power bank has a capacity of 10,000 milliamp hours, so it's pretty much a standard capacity for this size. It weighs around 215 grams. And it is in many ways reminiscent of the Anker 533 power bank, which I've also reviewed on this channel, because it has the same capacity, the same screen on it, pretty much the same features and same output, except it has its built-in cable. So let's take a deeper look. As I've mentioned already, the main thing that differentiates this from the Anker 533 is the built-in cable, and the built-in cable design really is kind of fascinating. The cable is firmly attached to the device, and there's a plastic little securing mount at the top here, which holds the cable in place when it's not being used. If you want to use it to charge something, you can simply push it forward, slide it out of there, and you can use it to charge any device that you want. It's just an odd choice to actually say, no, I'm so sure that our cable is built sturdily that we're going to use this as a carrying handle as well, because they definitely encourage you to do that. I have to say though that my experience has been pretty good. I've used this for a couple of weeks now and I haven't really run into any issues, and I have been pretty intentionally rough with it, especially with this cable, to see if it really can hold up. But like, this is a lot more pressure than you'd want to put on this, you know, in normal day-to-day use, and it's holding up just fine, which is great. The cable can be used to both charge the charger and indeed to charge other devices. So if I plug it into one of my studio lights here, it's just going to start charging it without any problems. And the screen on the front shows me that it's currently at 100% in terms of the power bank, and it's going to last for 16 hours at the current state before it runs out of charge. I'm guessing that's because this light is fully charged and it hasn't got much to do. But don't fear, you can indeed empty this out pretty quickly if you want to, because it will output at up to 30 watts. Now, 30 watts isn't the highest amount, but it's fine. It's good for most devices. It's certainly faster than an iPhone can charge at, and you know, there are Android devices that will charge faster, but overall it's enough to charge a phone fairly quickly. And on that subject, you'll get about 1.5 phone charges out of it before you need to charge the power bank, which I think is pretty acceptable for this style power bank. In addition to the built-in USB-C cable that we've already talked about, you also have an additional USB-C output on the side, which again can be either an in or an output. So if you want to just plug it into your existing phone charger, that's absolutely fine. And below it, we have a USB-A output, which is only an output, not an input. This device will also charge at 30 watts, so it's 30 watts bidirectional, and that means that you can charge this up in about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, because it has a 36 watt hour capacity. Now the big differentiator versus previous versions of this is the screen. I really like it. It isn't the brightest in the world, but it's bright enough. It's always hidden behind its plastic usually, which is quite nice. You can't see it unless you turn it on. And it has a green ring that shows you the current percentage with it written in the center in case you really wanted it spelled out to you, so in this case 99%. And then it will have the countdown that will show you either how long until it's full if you're charging it, or how long until it's empty if you're charging something else. The reason why I think that's quite helpful is not necessarily for, you know, when you're charging it, okay, it might be useful to know when it's full, but usually that doesn't matter. But actually in some cases, like when you're plugging in like a Bluetooth speaker, or in my case, if I plug in this light, right, whilst it's switched on, I'll know exactly how long I have until this light runs out of battery based on how long this timer says until it runs out. So if you're at a party and you're plugging in your power bank to a speaker, it's quite nice to know, oh, you know, we've got 5 hours of music left until it runs out. It's quite cool. In addition, you have the same feature as pretty much all Anker power banks, which is if you double press the button on the top, it will go into trickle charge mode, denoted by the fact there's a little dot in the top left. And that will just ensure that the power bank stays switched on when you're charging something like Bluetooth headphones that might not pull enough current from it to wake up the charger. So it just ensures that it, you know, keeps on charging that device. Now that can lead to your battery running down over time because it tries to stay switched on when it doesn't have to. I'm fairly certain there is actually a time limit as to when it would switch off automatically anyway. It's a number of hours. But in this case, it is useful to have that visual representation of the fact it's in that mode, but also knowing how long until it's empty in that case too. The trickle charging mode is useful, but in day-to-day use, you will not need to use it, okay? If you're using just to charge your phone pulls more than enough current to wake this up. It's just worth keeping in mind that if you need to charge a device that won't charge by itself, then having that is obviously very useful. Overall, I quite like this charger. It's a good size. I love the build. It feels quite solid. Interestingly, when I was reviewing the 533, I felt the front felt a bit more hollow than this one, whereas this feels a bit more solid for some reason. It has a nice textured grip on the side, so it's a little bit easier to hold onto than the other version. And it only costs, like, retail-wise, I think it's £5 or £6 more than the 533. And having the built-in cable probably is more useful, because if I think about the times when I might be charging a set of headphones or so on, having to go and grab a cable, etc., actually can be a bit of a pain. So, you know what? If this really does stand up to a few years of use, yeah, I'm all for it. So yeah, that is the Anker Nano Power Bank. Pretty interesting little charger from Anker, at a fairly good price point, especially if you get it on discount. So if you have any questions about it, pop them in the comment section below. Always happy to help. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, as it really does help me out. Thanks very much for watching. I hope I see you again next time. Goodbye.